Welcome to a new vlog. My name is Amsterdam Comic Geek, and in the last couple of days I've been in quite a nostalgic mood. And when I'm in such a mood, I usually pick up a couple of old Spider-Man comics from the 1980s. My favorite era of Spider-Man stories. Why is this my favorite era? Well, because that's when I got to meet Peter Parker for the first time via stories by people like Roger Stern and Tom DeFalco and Danny O'Neill. I still have fond memories of those stories. Actually, I think most of them still stand the test of time, like the origin of the Hobgoblin, in which the Hobgoblin is introduced by Roger Stern and John Romita Jr. and Sr. Now, when I was growing up in the 1980s in the Netherlands, of course, I read Dutch translations of Spider-Man comics. Now there's something interesting when we look at Dutch comics in the 1980s, the Dutch translations of the Marvel comics, which is the following. When they started doing the Spider-Man stories, every American comic had about 16 pages of story in them, and the rest was filler with editorials and advertisements. Now in the Dutch, monthly comics were 32 pages, so they made the decision early on that they would print 2 American episodes, 2 American issues in one Dutch issue. Now that was all very good because we were a couple of years behind on the American series, so that was a great way to catch up. But then Marvel started to publish stories that were 22 pages, so then the Dutch publisher had a small problem. They solved this by putting 1.5 American comics in one Dutch comic. So that meant like in 2 Dutch Spider-Man comics, you had like 3 American issues. But because 3 times 22 is 66 and not 64 pages, every once in a while they had to leave out a page to make everything fit. Now, when I read American versions of those old comics, sometimes I stumble upon a page I've never seen before in my life because I'm used to how those stories were published in Dutch, with the missing pages. So whenever I come across a page like that, my heart makes a small jump of joy because there's new material. At least to me, there's new material. And what I wanted to do is show you a couple of those pages. This is, like I said, the origin of the Hobgoblin. In this trade, the original story of the Hobgoblin is published. Amazing Spider-Man 238. That's the comic we first come across the Hobgoblin. First of all, this first confrontation was published in these 2 Dutch comics. So halfway the Dutch comic, the Hobgoblin story starts, as you can see. So the Dutch comic starts differently from the American comic because they left the panel out so they can write a short synopsis of what happened before, because it's like half a comic, right? So the panel they left out is this one. So they left out this great panel of Peter calling Aunt May. Now, skipping one panel, you think, okay, that's okay, because we're not missing that much information, right? But let's move on. When Peter finally confronts the Hobgoblin for the first time, a great fight starts. And then he jumps and he misses the Goblin Glider and he falls down. Now the Goblin throws some kind of ghost thing. Peter lands. And although there's a lot of smoke, he's still able to shoot his webs and hit the Hobgoblin's glider. And then he pulls him down, as you can see here, which is great. Now, in the Dutch version, that page is totally missing. Pete falls down, Spider-Man falls down, and then here's the webbing. He webs. So I discovered that page, which is a wonderful page, and I'm very sorry that it's missing from the original publication. Now, another page that was missing, which is kind of sad, which is great as well, is the splash page. Now, making the splash page disappear is of course pretty smart, because most of the time when it's a 2-part story, or a story consists of more parts, the splash page usually is just they summarize what happened before. And if you publish like 3 comics in 2 Dutch editions, it's very easy to skip that one. So in the Dutch edition, this is the end of 238, and then here 239 starts. While in the American edition, the original story, this is the end of 238. Here's the cover for 239. And then you have this great, wonderful splash page. And then the story resumes. I know these are small tidbits, but still, it's exhilarating when you read an American comic and you finally and you know these stories by heart, as I do, and all of a sudden there's an extra page popping up, and it's like a little present. So I thought it would be nice to show you guys how that works for us Dutchies, basically. So this basically means that I have to collect all of the Amazing Spider-Man comics in their original form, or at least in trade paperback form or omnibuses, which I've done, so you don't hear me complain. And every once in a while I come across such a beautiful page I've never seen before, and it's a real treat. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Cheers!